कुछ काम नहीं. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you everyone. We have concluded with the discussion. Sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you can begin.
I have been, watching you all and hearing you all with lots of interest, and it's a very interesting topic. Observations. So a lot was said about infrastructure. We all crib about infrastructure. But tell me, does every sport require infrastructure from the very beginning, or do you only need specialized infrastructure when you reach a certain level out there? The point that we are winning medals in Commonwealth Games and in the Asian Games, but not in the Olympics, which clearly means that we are not good enough. It's not a question of because the infrastructure is there for the Asiad and the Commonwealth, but if you are not good enough, you're not going to win medals. Are you not good enough? Because the population that you talk of, 1.3 billion, the number or the percentage of people who are interested in sport is minuscule. I want to ask these people out here, how many of you children playing a game in a focused manner? I don't want an answer from everybody, but I'm sure there will be just a percentage of maybe maximum 5%. So when you look across the board, infrastructure should come in schools. Nobody spoke of schools. Do you have infrastructure in your schools? I know schools don't have playfields. Have sports days. Encourage sports of any kind. So where does a child go and play? What is the maximum time the child spends in a day? Where? Going to school, in school, coming back from school, doing the school homework, and then what is left is what the child uses for playing a video game or playing just a game outside the house, or being on social media or watching television. So why is the school not being asked that why don't you guys have infrastructure? Structured sports in school. Schools can have every kind of infrastructure, but they don't do it because they are only churning out academicians. So we need to start seeing where this whole thing starts from. And in my opinion, it must start at schools. And then these are the feeders to more, to the higher level of national sports, then Asiads, and so on and so forth. If you look at the US model, when they have their college or the university sports, the games, the people who get medals in that go straight into Olympics. They don't have any incentives. They don't have salaries and pensions. We are not always begging for money. Make everything move. I understood in this debate, everybody just wants money. Sports is not about money. Yes, sports needs infrastructure. There's no doubt about it, depending upon what level you're playing with. At the infrastructure level, are we playing sports at the lower level? Are we playing sports in schools? Are we playing sports in your neighborhood? Are you spending your free time playing sports? How many of you go and play a game every evening? So the whole culture of sports in our country is missing. To infuse sporting culture, we need to make sports popular. And how are they popular? So we spoke a lot about cricket. Why is cricket popular? Because BCCI doesn't have money because it generated it from nowhere. It generated it because of you guys. You guys go and watch cricket. You don't go and watch soccer. You don't go and watch a man running. You want to watch cricket. So when you watch cricket, they get views for which they get ads, get money. It's linked by the popularity of a sport in the country. And when you say cricket is a religion, well, it is because of you and me. We watch cricket, and therefore they get the money. And when Sindhu became, world champion, then some people started watching her, but yet most people don't even know who she is. Next, same about the media. The media only covers things which are popular for you and me. If you want to watch the program that the media covers, they're not going to cover it. In this debate, why not? If it was a popular debate, it would be streamed live. Of media, how many of you have ever covered a sporting event like you are today doing this debate? You are here in this forum, but have you ever done it for a sporting event? Ask yourself, you'll get the answer. Sexual harassment. How the hell can sexual it's not even related. If you're good, you're good. If you're a sportsman, you're a sportsman. So you may have one person being sexually harassed and left out sports or something. But that's no reason for India not to win medals in Olympic. I personally, this is my opinion. Everybody has their own, so I'm only giving you my opinion. It's not. And jobs. To play your sports. That is when you're in school. So it has to be concurrent to studies. Then you grow up and you go to a university and you need to play your games concurrent to your university education. And then if you are good enough, you will be picked up for a team to represent whichever part, your state, your country, Commonwealth, and so on and so forth. But the impression I'm getting is that sports should be some kind of a channel where you are taken in, then you are assured money, medals and prizes, and then you're given a pension. It can never be like that. A corporate will also only support sports when the sports have something for them in it. Nobody spends money for free, that kind of stuff. So when we spoke of corporates not supporting games, it's because there is a linkage between popularity of that game and the support. If the game is popular, corporates will go and support it. If the game is not popular, very few corporates might support it. It will be something which will be normally coming. We need to have motivation. Somebody spoke of motivation, and I think that is exactly what is missing with all of us. When I come of age, or when I start, say, going to school, I'm not motivated by my parents to pursue a game. I am motivated by my parents to study. I will have a tutor coming to teach me mathematics, physics, chemistry, and all that. I won't have a tutor coming to train me for any sport. So we have that culture missing. You guys are now at the helm where you are going to start getting into positions to make decisions at how you can encourage young people to play games. It can't be for money. Nobody plays games for money. I am from the army, and in the army, people go and give their lives for the country, not for money, not for any incentive or promotion. No, sir. It is for the love of it, for the love of the country, for the motivation. You have to motivate those guys to go in there. And that's how they go. And, we are talking of Kargil, which happened for money. So money and passion are not linked. Passion comes from within, is something which is, it's like, hygiene factor, roti, kapda, makan. Put it aside. You have to move beyond that if you want to become an Olympian. Roti, kapda, makan will not make you an Olympian. So you have to have your passion, your dream, you have to find time. For example, if you want to be a marathon runner, what infrastructure are you looking for? What time, who's going to tell you, okay, don't come to work, sir, please run 42 kilometers and thereafter go home and relax every day and we will give you food and money and things, and you are like, the race horse that we are breeding, who will take part on a day when there will be an event, and you run and you win, and then again you go back in the stables and you are polished and you are fed and kept out there. That kind of culture will not work. So just give it a thought. Everybody had a point to make. I think it was a very, very lively debate. A lot of good points came up. So these are my views. Them, like I said before, they may not be the views, and you don't have to agree with me. But this is what I feel over a period of time. And somebody also talked about my own thing when I did my Ironman, and I did it when I was 58 and a half years of age, running 9 to 5 job with 1 hour for traveling and coming back, you can say. I used to come and run from 7 at night to 10 at night, till 180 kilometers on a weekend. On a Saturday night, I would start at 2 o'clock in the morning till 9 in the morning, because the traffic is less, the pollution is less, the sun is lower in Delhi because, Delhi is 42 degrees centigrade, 44 degrees centigrade in summer. So you have to find solutions and not problems. Nobody is going to come from outside to help you become an Olympian. Then you have to give what you have. It's your passion, it's your dream. You will find the answers, the time, the money, the location, everything. So there is a culture of blame. उसने नहीं किया, मेरे को ये नहीं मिला, मेरी गाड़ी नहीं आई, मेरे को खाना नहीं मिला. Forget all that. When you're going for war, there is no gadi, there is no khana, there is nothing waiting for you, there are no medals. You're going to get a bullet which you don't even know it's coming from, where it's coming. And you're there because you are motivated. So try and look at it in that manner, and I'm sure we'll get many more Olympic medals soon. Ask your questions if you have any. You spoke of some questions somebody wants to ask me.
Prabhu, can I go ahead, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, considering the amount of
Yes.
mental preparation.
So we have a question from our part.
Speaking.
Yeah, Omkar.
Sir, considering the amount of mental preparation that is required for an event like Ironman, how did you manage it?
Well, see, I take talks on endurance, which is mental endurance. So it's all to do with mental endurance, and from mental endurance stems physical endurance. And Ironman or any endurance event is a test of mental endurance and physical toughness. Mental endurance and then physical toughness. Now, what is a mental endurance? Mental endurance is the ability to be able to endure whatever you're in. When you say endure is always, related to something unpleasant. When you're happy or it's a joyous occasion, you can't say I went for a very, very nice party and I endured the party. No, you enjoyed the party. But when you went for a lousy party, I had to suffer out there. I sat through it. I was not enjoying it, but I had to be there. So endurance is to do with an unpleasant experience. Today, we are all in the COVID times. We are stuck at home. We can't do what we were doing earlier. You are restricted in your movements. Your people are losing jobs. So you are enduring this situation. You need your mind to be in the right place to be able to accept what is happening. So endurance is to do with willingness, two things. So what is willingness? Willingness is the willingness that you have to accept the situation. If you accept that COVID is here to stay till a vaccine is found, 1 year more, maybe a year and a half, the moment you accept that, the turmoil or the anxiety of wanting to now go out will reduce, because you have accepted that next 1 year, I'm going to be in a similar situation. So first is to accept your situation. If you're going for a marathon, training for a marathon, you have to accept in your mind that you are going to be spending 4 to 5 hours of training for the marathon, during which there will be pains, there will be aches, you'll be exerting Once you accept it, then it becomes easier to do it. But if you say, no, I don't want to do it, and yet you're pushed into the marathon, then there is a conflict between what you're doing and what is happening to you. So the willingness to accept the situation is the first part of developing endurance. And if your willingness or the event that is happening is linked to a larger goal in life. For example, for me to do the Ironman, I was doing it for myself to prove to myself that I still had it in me at the age of 58 and a half, that I can do whatever I wanted to do. Because it's a very intimidating race, with 3.8 kilometers of swimming, 180 kilometers of cycling, 42 kilometers of running, all to be done one after the other. It's a very daunting event. So I took it up as a challenge, and my larger goal in this was to prove to myself. So if whatever you're doing, which you're enduring, is linked to a larger goal, and that goal is something that you want, then it becomes easier to accept. So acceptance, willingness. And second is optimism. Optimism is that you must be optimistic in your mind that the outcome of whatever you're doing will be positive. So when you go for an endurance event, like you asked me, what was it that kept me going? It was willingness and it was optimism. Now for optimism, you can use a number of techniques, to enhance your optimism. When you're low on motivation, technique called visualization. You visualize what you will feel when it gets over, what you will feel when you succeed, how people, who matter to you will feel happy for you, how you will feel happy for yourself, how they will feel happy for you. So visualize your success when feeling low, and this is for everything. In something you're preparing for, an examination, you can't keep studying day after day, day after day, day after day. You start feeling low, your energies go low. Visualize. It's a good technique to keep your optimism alive. Technique I will share with you for building up endurance, mental endurance. Mental endurance is built when you start doing things outside your comfort zone. All of you have a comfort zone. Maybe, going to your work or studying and then coming home, social networking, watching television, meeting friends, whatever is your comfort zone. It's your daily routine in your life is your comfort zone. Start getting out of your comfort zone willingly, you will build mental endurance, because to do something difficult, something unknown develops endurance. Even if you go for a shower, and instead of turning on the hot water, because, even in summer, I know, I try to take the edge out of the water. So just warm it up slightly. And in winter especially, everybody wants a warm water bath. But say in winter, instead of going and taking a warm water bath, for first 1 minute, stand under a cold shower, willingly. So you are facing discomfort willingly. Stand there and feel the experience. Willingly, it enhances mental endurance. Think difficult knowingly, do it willingly, it will enhance your mental endurance, and you keep doing it and practicing it, it will become a habit. So mental endurance is the key to doing something like the Ironman. Because first problem is mental. Can I do it? Will I be able to spend the long hours training? Yes, in your mind. Then comes the next step of starting to train. So I use this technique, and of course there were a number of small other techniques that I used to keep myself in the experience.
Omkar, could you just give me 1 minute, please? I just wanted to extend on to what.
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering my question. I could completely resonate with what you were trying to tell me, because as my introduction said, I'm a pilot, sir. I'm training to be a commercial pilot. And sir, in this profession as well, we have to seek discomfort about erratic schedules and everything. And then there are times, especially during checks and everything, where I feel like I should give up. It's not my cup of tea. So, sir, did you feel something similar of that sort when you were preparing for Ironman? And if you did, then how did you manage that? The whole idea of giving up. that?
So, like I said earlier, the training schedules are long because just to give you an idea, to swim 3.8 kilometers for an average person, you need between 1 to 2 hours, and to cycle 180 kilometers, you require between 6 to 7 hours, and to run 42 kilometers between 4 to 5 hours. Now, if you are going to do a 180 kilometer cycling ride, and you're going to spend 6 to 7 hours on a cycle, let me correlate it. If you're traveling from Delhi by car, it takes you 5.5 hours. And when you reach Chandigarh in a car driven by somebody else, you say, I've had a long drive, I'm tired. Here you're on a cycle where the engine is your body, and you are on that cycle for 6 to 7 hours. So I wanted to quit every day when I trained. Every day when I went for training, I used to curse myself because I was cursing myself for having got into the situation where I wanted to do Ironman. But the technique that I used to stop me from quitting is what I'll share with you, and it's called public pledging. I went onto social media and I pledged publicly that I'm going to do Ironman. So I announced it on Facebook, my friends, WhatsApp groups, wherever I was and stuff like that, so that everybody came to know about it. Now, when I did that, I had mixed reactions. And let me assure you that even when you announce something difficult to people, 99% of those people will discourage you. They'll tell you can't do it. तुम्हारे बस की बात नहीं है, you're too old for it, or you're too young for it, बाद में कर लेना. They are discouraging you. Most of them are discouraging you because they are envious of you. They are not bold enough to make the decision you have made. Ignore all those people. So I had also reactions like this. 99% of the people discouraged me. There were people who smirked when I told them because, this is Asha. So the smile said more than what they spoke, saying that, you can't do it. And to stop those smiles and those smirks from becoming into laughs, it forced me to go on and not quit. You don't want to lose face because, people will come and say, I told you that time he can't do it. He announced that I'm going to do Ironman. On the day of the event, in Austria, that was on 1st of July, I told her that event is going to start, and I know all these people are tracking me. So you can track the Ironman live. There's an app and you can see when it starts and you can see which athlete. If you feed in the bib number, you can see the progress of that person. And I said, all these guys are tracking me, and I will die doing the Ironman, but I will not quit. I will not quit and come back. So because I had publicly pledged, it was a good technique I found to keep in the situation, to keep in the environment of doing and not quitting. So you can try this technique, it works very well. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Rutvik wants to ask a question.
Sir, it was a pleasure hearing about this, sir. I mean, being an athlete, I can feel everything that you said with regards to the self-motivation that you have gained. So my question to you is, sir, that even I'm an armed forces aspirant, also an athlete. So, sir, how have you, how was your journey with the armed forces, and how has that journey helped you with regards to sports? I mean, does the armed forces naturally enhance your ability to do sports, or has it come from your childhood? I mean, I would like to know the whole journey, like how fitness has inspired you, how you and why you chose only the Ironman and the armed forces as well, sir.
So firstly, I'll go back to your debate because somebody made a statement which I did not comment on earlier, to say that the armed forces has very good infrastructure and therefore most medals are won from the armed forces. Now that is a prehistoric statement. It was so when Milkha Singh was in the armed forces. You'd be surprised that the armed forces don't have AstroTurf even to play hockey. At whatever level of the armed forces, unless they come, into the inter-services level, grass. The armed forces is not a place which I would say is designed to prepare sports people. It's the armed forces, and they prepare soldiers for external and internal threats. So that is the main aim. And the sports and the other stuff is all, outcomes of the life of the armed forces. Now coming back to your question, I'm an army kid. My dad was in the army. Touch wood, he's with me. He's 98 today. It's his 98th birthday after 15 days. So I saw only the armed forces from the time I was born. 3 of my sisters are married to army officers. So I was only in an armed forces environment. And when I passed out of school, I passed out from St. George's College in Missouri. It's a hostel. I didn't even go and try for any other university. While I was in school, I appeared for the NDA and I got through and I joined the NDA straight from school. I didn't even do my 12th. I went after 11th because that time it was still 11th. Schools, but NDA was still taking after 11th. And then you have the journey of the NDA where I found that I was not fit enough. Passed the PT tests in my first and second term. And whilst people used to go for games in the evening, I was put to do extra PT. And of course, so you have to work harder and all that. And the point I'm trying to get at is that whatever shortcoming may be there can be overcome by hard work, by perseverance. And I worked hard in my sports and I passed out as the cadet in outdoors. Okay, I got something called the Para Medal in IMA, which is the ultimate medal for fitness, where you do a 10-mile, that is 16-kilometer run in full rig, and then you do an obstacle course, and then you do shooting, and it's a competition. And so I got the Para Medal for fitness, I got the drill medal for marching, I got the best medal for shooting. For Armored Corps, I was first in the Order of Merit overall, that's a gold medal from the President, and I got the Sword of Honor. And all that happened only because of the hard work. Like I told you when I joined the NDA, I wasn't passing even my PT tests of first and second term. For whatever reason. So hard work is important. And the question you asked me regarding whether the army helped me do Ironman. Well, I think everything that you have done in your life, in some way or the other, impacts your life. It helps you. Whether it is the organization at home, the culture at home, your friend circle, your work culture, and the people you meet. So to that extent, my dad was a sportsman. He was, in his time, the Northern India boxing champion of United British India. So he was a very good boxer, and there was a lot of sporting culture in my house. And so I used to play a lot of games. But that did not necessarily make me a good sports person. Because, like I said, there were many other factors which there's not enough time to really talk about all that. So the army certainly did give me advantages in terms of discipline, which I picked up in the army. And discipline, I don't talk of just doing what you're meant to do. It's self-discipline I'm talking of. When you decide that you want to do something in life, whatever is your dream, for example, the whole lot of you here would have something that you are wanting to do in your life, self-discipline, because you will have to do things which are, tough to reach your goal. Nothing comes easy. So self-discipline is a very important thing. So I found that self-discipline helped me a lot. And commitment, focus, perseverance. Because why patience? I give a lot of emphasis on patience. Because results don't come overnight. You will start working on whatever you're doing today, and then you'll get impatient that I'm not seeing the results. I'm studying, but I'm not getting good marks. You may study and you may not get good marks now and next year. But if you keep on the hard work, the results will start showing. So there must be patience to wait for the results to come, especially in sports and physical events. If you start training, it doesn't mean today you run 42 kilometers, tomorrow you'll be flying that 42. No. If you can run 42, you should feel damn happy if you walked it. So it takes time. So results take time. So patience is very important. So there are a whole lot of factors. And lastly, you asked me why Ironman. So at my stage, when I was at 58 and a half, I had spent already 38 years in the army. Then you put 4 years of NDA IMA, so you can say about 42 years. And you are at a stage when the challenges in front of you are almost over. You know, you have spent so much time in the army, you know almost everything that there is to know. So when you go to work, nothing challenging is happening. You have already dealt with it. So the challenges at work reduced, the challenges at home reduced. My kids had decided what they want to do. We are settled. So I found I'm in a situation where I'm moving, but I don't know where I'm going. And I didn't like that situation. So I wanted to look for a challenge for myself. So I started scanning around and I came upon this thing called the Ironman. And when I saw this damn thing of 3.8, 180, 42, I said, God, if people are doing, then I think this is a good challenge to take up. And so I decided on the Ironman. And of course, to let you on into a secret, there is a woman who's my inspiration for this Ironman. It's Sister Madonna, practicing nun in the United States. And she was introduced to running, just running, at the age of 48. And at the age of 52, she first did her first Ironman. After that, she has done 40 of them. On YouTube, Iron Nun, you will see her. She did her last Ironman, I think she was 86 or 87. So when I saw her video, my eyes fell out. You know, I said, if she can do it, then I'm a kid. I'm going to go for this. And that's how I went for it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have last 2 questions. Can we go ahead with it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question from Kashish Methwani. She's asking, sir, do you not agree that everyone doesn't have the privilege to follow their passion, often have to leave their desires for roti kapda makan?
Well, Kashish, who asked this question?
Sir, me, Kashish, sir.
Okay, Kashish. No, I don't agree with you. Because passion, I said, comes from inside. So you have a passion for something, or you have a dream. What is a dream? I'll put it in the words of our erstwhile president, Abdul Kalam. A dream is something, it's not something that you see when you're sleeping. Let you sleep. That means, you're wanting it so badly that even when you lie in bed, you are just dreaming about getting there. Hypothetically, a dream. So, okay, let's take my dream. My dream was to do Ironman. I also had issues of roti kapda makan, in the sense I told you I was working. My work. I was in a position where my appointment was, Director General Resettlement. I was looking at resettlement of Army, Navy, Air Force officers, JSOs, Jawans all over the country. There's no way that I could say, I'm running, tum log apna karte raho. 10 hours of my roti kapda makan work, I had to take out and spend there, which left me with 14 hours. Now, out of those 14 hours, you need to sleep at least 7 to 8 hours. So you remove that and you're left with 6 to 7 hours. And in those 6 to 7 hours, you have to eat and do whatever else you're going to do, which includes your training. Whether it's your family life, it's your social life, it's your social media, whatever you have to do. So there will be compromises to be made. If I'm going to spend 7 hours on my cycling, on something. So like you said, Compromise on your dream? No. Compromise on something else. So you have to do roti kapda makan. You have to follow your passion. You will need to compromise on other stuff which is left out, which may be like what I said, family life, social life, social media, maybe some other hobby. All that will be compromised for that time. That time may extend from 6 months to 1 year to 10 years to 20 years to 50 years. So when they say he has devoted his life to this and now we are giving him lifetime award, that's what actually it's meant to be. That you have sacrificed other stuff which you wanted to do for this bigger thing. So your question, going back to it, you have to sacrifice your passion for roti kapda makan? No. Roti kapda makan is required, so you can't compromise on that. But the rest of what you have, you can focus and recut it in a way where you can follow your passion. Because you have less time, it may take you longer, but it doesn't mean that you give it up. I hope I've been able to get through to you. If you have any other question on this part, only you can ask me now.
Thank you, sir, for your guidance. Sir.
Okay.
Sir, last question and then we can conclude. This question is from Riya Arolkar.
Yeah.
She says, we all talk about how we have to take risks in life and go out of the way, keeping everything at stake to achieve something. Risk calculator, since the beginning, how do you think can I change the mindset?
I can only say you must go by that, saying, nothing venture, nothing win. So unless you take a risk, you will never be able to know that whatever you have risked for will come to you. It's like, say you want to climb a tree. Now there's a risk you might fall. But unless you try, you will not be able to climb it. And if you fall in the process, so the risk part of it is preparing. You must always be prepared to fail. So you have a dream, and now you have, like I spoke to Kashish about it, you have a dream, and you are taking time to go towards the dream. But there is always a chance in the outcome that either you will succeed fully or partially, or you may fail. So you must take into consideration that I can fail and prepare for it. You say that if I fail, I will then sit and analyze where I went wrong. Why did I fall off the tree when I was climbing? Maybe, my shoes were not right. I didn't hold the grip right. It had been raining. The timing was not okay. It was not light enough. You assess where you went wrong. Correct those, and then you start again. But if you don't prepare to fail, then you will be so devastated that you failed that you will give it up.
Right.
But risk you must take. Now, how do you get to start taking risks? Is to convince yourself. You have to convince yourself. There is no easy solution to it. How do I start taking risks? Actually, risk taking is an attitude.
Right.
So there is a factor called a risk taking factor. You will have to convince yourself that unless you try, you will never know whether it will happen. And that trying may be risky. And that is what I spoke of. You will have to get out of your comfort zone. So start preparing. Get your mind used to getting to do difficult things. You have a chili, a green chili in your morning stuff. Take a bite. Willingly take a bite. Okay. And then don't rush for that sugar or don't rush for water. Just hold it and sustain it. So your ability to take on something difficult, something unpleasant, it enhances your endurance.
Right.
Okay. So this is a very hypothetical example I gave you. But like I told you there are many things in the cold shower things which are not dangerous. Of course, this don't bite it so big, and then you tell me that you told me to bite it now, but I develop this. So look at that.
Thank you.
sir. Sir, it was our honor to host you, such an eminent and exceptionally outstanding personality. Everyone is definitely motivated by your stories. Definitely help us grow in every aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
Thanks a
a
lot,
great pleasure
sir.
being here and listening to your debate. What you said, and you guys are the people who will make the change happen in our country. You may not be able to get Olympic medals because you are now at that stage when it may be too late to start, but you will ensure other people get Olympic medals with the way you all are thinking, and also, trying to work towards how to improve the system. So my best of luck to each one of you. All the best and have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir, Jain sir.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Jain, sir.
See you.
See you, sir.